Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy here. For nerds, by nerds, hanging out with the crew.
Ryan?
Nate.
And today we're doing player tips, and we're going to be talking about player composition, how important it is to you guys in your game, and go player composition. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, let's talk I'd say the different levels of player composition. You have the thing where you're like, all right, well, we already have a wizard, a fighter, and
the
a
iconic
rogue.
roles in the party. Yeah.
So if you're going to come into the game, you need to be a cleric.
We really need the cleric. Nobody wants to play the cleric, buddy. You got to be a cleric. Sorry.
Yeah. So being the fourth or fifth guy making a character for a campaign, you could get stuck in that kind of role where people say you should be this, and I don't think that's necessary. I think that's actually kind of silly.
There's the other side of that where you're like the DM is like, I'm running this kind of campaign, so like here's your choices, party composition.
So I don't mind that, especially if I'm the DM telling people that they gotta make choices.
Well, I guess not. That makes it completely different.
Yeah.
That's a horse of another color.
Yeah.
The type of game you're running really matters in this sort of circumstance. Like, if you're running a very heavily, like, Thieves Guild sort of crime-based thing, well, then, like, all right, either be a rogue or something that can act subtly in this. Like, sure, you can be a barbarian, but don't be a kick in the door, slaughter everything in sight barbarian. You know, be the skillful hunter barbarian or something.
Or have a good cover, like being a guild merchant, who's also a fence. You don't need to be,
Well, I feel like this should make that so much easier. Like, you could literally all be different classes and just take the criminal background,
Right? Yeah.
or the urchin background.
with fifth, it's really easy.
So that kind of that alleviates that a little bit if you're playing the rogue type game. But as far as like you were saying, Nate, with hey, we already have this, and this, we need that. I absolutely hate that myself. I really think when you come to the table, everyone should just play what they want to play. If you end up with 5 fighters, you got 5 fighters.
Yeah. Although, I mean, it is kind of like it's not. It doesn't seem that cool when everybody's kind of like stepping over one of another's like expertise. Like, it's like, if you wanted to be like the knowledge guy at the table, and there's another guy that does it as well, if not better than you, then like, well, it's kind of redundant, and you don't really feel like you have much of a role in the party.
Well, then there's situations where you're going to be split, and then it's going to be on you.
You never split the party.
I always split the party. That's one of the secrets. That's a DM tip. Split the party.
Never the party.
Yeah.
And then the player tip is never split
the party. Yeah.
Because you're just going to end up sitting around looking at your phone because you're not doing anything. Everybody else gets to play the game. And
unless there's a giant axe coming down to split the party up, don't let it happen. But anyway, player composition. I don't really care. Like Dave's game tonight, I'm going to be a sorcerer. There's already a sorcerer in the game. I don't care.
Are you being the storm sorcerer?
No.
All right.
Are you the storm sorcerer?
No, I've been playing this character since the beginning, and the storm sorcerer only recally existed.
Yeah, you're going to be a wild mage. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the dragonborn dragon sorcerer, so.
He's
like, I'm not going to play something as sucky as a wild mage.
Yeah.
Who would do
that? I did not say that. I just said I was going to be the other thing.
Yeah.
So party composition, the most important thing to me about party composition is having a party that actually can work well together.
Cohesion.
It is not being at odds with each other. I don't care if you're the same things or anything like that, but you don't want a party that's like, well, my character would do this, which is like the antithesis to what everyone else in the party would actually do. If you're playing the evil assassin murder hobo character and everyone else is playing the iconic lawful good paladin, that's a bad party composition.
Or at least you have to be able to do it subtly.
Yeah, so motivation.
If you're going to be a murderer, just do it very quietly.
Not stats and class-wise, but motivation-wise, that's a bad party composition.
Yeah, and a lot of this can easily be resolved in a session 0 when you talk out with the other players and the DM and GM, whatever you're calling yourselves, what you want out of the game. And once everyone has established kind of what they want out of the game, what their expectations are, what the GM's expectations for the game are, then you guys can kind of build something from there.
Yeah, and I think everyone's going to naturally flow towards something that's going to assist in that what everybody wants to get out of the game mentality. And, if you double up on stuff, so what?
Well, yeah, like there's a huge difference between, this is going to be an urban campaign, or this is going to be a primarily wilderness campaign,
or it's 3 Musketeers and like you're doing very courts type of stuff. Like that's another way it could go. Or or it's going to be this is a horror game or an undead fighting game, whatever that is, you know.
Right, so you could take all that information and use it to build your party composition so that it works well together, and you're not at odds with each other, and you're not going to have one player that has to sit out on adventures because, you know, what he wants to do isn't what the rest of the party would do.
Well, you know what? If he chose to not join the game that you're running, well, that's not really your problem. That's that individual's problem. So,
but it still creates problems, and it's a problem that can be avoided, you know, through taking these things into consideration.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you tell this person, hey, this is not going to work very well, and they're like, oh, that be damned, I'm going to be this. Well, all right. Either bring a book tonight or don't show up, because the game that I'm running that you're not really playing, that's the game I'm running tonight.
Well, so, yeah. It goes back to one of the golden rules of don't be a dick.
Right.
Creating a character that is the antithesis to what is going on in the game is never a good idea, and you know that'll bring us to at some point another player's hit video of my character wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You want it. It takes player buy-in, in order to make this game work.
And a player with buy-in, even if they have a character that's counter flow to what the theme of the game is, they'll figure out a way to be in the game. As long as you've got the player's buy-in.
Or you could just make another character. You know, it literally
there is that.
It takes you 35 minutes to make another character or whatever.
Well, yeah.
So 40 minutes, boom, another character.
Well, that's
problem
true.
solved.
A different, come up with a different.
But I mean,
idea.
mentality-wise, for the party composition, it's really more about mentality than your actual stats and what you chose to play.
There's a problem of individuals. Sometimes there's going to be individuals that are just going to be anti whatever's going on. You're going to run into that.
Well, so like that brings me back to the whole why I don't like people picking their class based on
what's at the table already.
What's at the table already? Because a player is much more likely to lose interest in playing their character if they didn't create the character they wanted to play from the beginning. So, like, within that framework of the party composition, you need to find that character that you actually want to play, so it stays interesting and fun for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I often have the problem of, like, there's lots of different characters I would enjoy playing. It's just the idea of, like, what's right for the campaign, what's going on. I do kind of look at what's already at the table, because, like, I don't want to be the second knowledge character. Like, that's, right. That's not really fun or interesting.
But, I mean, that works so much better if you actually have, like, a handful of ideas in your head already going, I wouldn't want to play this. Oh, someone's kind of like that, but I had this other idea. I can run with that instead.
Do I go the spell slinger, or do I go the barbarian that runs around and hit shit with the halberd? Those are two completely different characters, and depending on what's going on, will determine what I'm going to play.
Well, yeah, I think for a lot of people that's not a problem, but there is like a specific player that only plays this thing. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird to me because like there's like all these different flavors, so I want to sample them all. But occasionally you just run into those people that they won't go outside of that little zone. So I guess that could be where you could run into that more so, and then in that case, well, maybe there will be two knowledge wizards in the party. Just happens that way.
And they could, while it seems like there's a stack of powers there, you have the personalities of them in conflict. So it's easier, I think, with rogues to like, oh, I'm showing off disarming traps and lock picking and all that. And the other rogue has the same abilities. So it's like, oh, that guy, what an ass. He's always showing me up.
I mean, but they become drastically different based on where they put their expertise.
So they can do that.
Yeah.
So the guys with a whole bunch of knowledge and information, maybe it's a bard and a sage, a wizard sage and a bard of lore. So you've got these two guys. They can, in a sense, you have a lot of conflict role playing wise, and it can be a good thing for the whole party. That kind of,
as long as it doesn't take over and overshadow the rest of the party.
Well, and that's like on the players to be like, put your ego in check. Are you ruining the game by having this little role play and trying to prove that your character's cooler than the other guy? Like, if that's the goal of what you're doing, then you're really going to just eventually screw the game up.
I'm picturing like knowledge combats. Like it's like instead of making attack rolls, they're making counter knowledge checks, and then you deal psychic damage.
Like, have you heard of this?
Non-lethal. You just like scholarly one up each other. Up one's.
Have you heard of the cannibal halflings of Jambia?
Yeah.
That's when the barbarian walks up to the two of them and decapitates them both with the battle
cracks their heads together. Two heads are better than one.
Two heads are better than one. Boom.
Yeah. I mean, but it could be like two academics going back and forth with one another, like in a sort of in a chummy sort of way, and not always in a conflict way. But then sometimes when they get the upper hand, then they're like, aha.
They start
casting
some cantrips that do psychic damage on each other.
Well, you could even do like almost like what movie am I thinking of? Crap, I can't think of the name of the movie. Giant Monsters, Giant Robots. That a lot of people didn't like.
Giant with the kaiju.
Yeah.
Pacific Rim.
Where they had the two scientist characters that were both like knowledge based, but they were still different, and so you could have that kind of relationship with it doesn't matter what it is, just similar types of characters, but again the personalities are different. Part of the game for you guys might be just how you guys interact together.
Right.
Could be part of the thing.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing like when you have a game like, say, Vampire the Masquerade. Well, I mean, with like a game like D&D, the classes are all drastically different. But, I mean, in a vampires game, like, everybody's a vampire. So the only thing that... I mean, yeah, different ones have different capabilities and some different powers. But at the end of the day, you're all vampires and you kind of do vampire-y things. Whereas, like, the classes are a lot more delineated in, like, a D&D game. So...
Well, that's why I don't like those systems.
Yeah.
I don't like the sameness.
Yeah, well, you focus on the personality and the...
Yeah, and that's where the difference is, just like the backgrounds. So, like I was saying, I'm being a sorcerer. Well, I'm being a barbarian sorcerer, dragonborn, dragon sorcerer, and that's completely different. I don't even know what's your background. So, I mean, I'm going to be like an outlander or something like that. So it's like completely different.
Man,
so
Luddite, yeah.
So they're going to be absolutely different, even though we're a similar class and similar
same race
and similar class.
So the gist, I think, for us is your party composition doesn't actually matter that much.
Right.
Yeah, as long as it's something agreeable to the campaign you're playing.
Right. I mean, you just have to make it fit the setting or the sort of the scope of the game. Is really
the expectations that were set out in the beginning.
And there are certain things, all right. So not having any magical healing can be an issue when you're on like life and death situations. Well, at that point, you're going to need
at least a bard.
I mean,
at least a bard.
A bard would help. So I mean, if you don't like, well, I don't want to be a cleric, but I'll totally do a bard and just take cure wounds. Or you can be a guy that takes medicine.
Or a druid.
That healer feat. The healer feat.
A druid or
so
a
you
ranger
can actually like heal
too.
hit points as well as do spare the dying with the medical kits. And then you could have, I don't know, if you did a background that gave you herbalism, you could collect the herbs to make med kits. So you could go and have that kind of loop on going with that, where you could heal people, give them hit points, make sure no one's dying.
Or what you could do is that player whose character is on death's door, their next character could be a cleric because they saw what a problem it was.
It could be.
Yeah. So
and that and I guess that's always the biggest problem with party composition. Who's going to be the cleric?
Oh, and that's a sub in, I think, for 5th edition for cleric is take a human with the med.
Well, there's actually a lot of they actually put a lot of healing into it.
There is, yeah.
Paladin, ranger, druid,
yeah,
bard.
That one feat that will give you the temporary hit points. You have the other feat that does the D4 healing with the healer's kit usage.
Yeah, so there's options.
There's second wind for fighters. I mean, if you're not knocked down.
Yeah,
there is definitely options. So I don't know, guys. What do you do in your games? How do you feel about party composition? Do you always cram someone in and shoehorn them into a class because you're not? It's not there, and you feel you must absolutely have all the iconic classes. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, what are the roles that you like to abdicate to another player? Like, nope, you play that, you cover that.
Which I hate the most of all when other people tell other people what to play.
Yeah.
But while you're at it, like, comment, and share, and so you can even subscribe.
You can find us on Twitter.
You also patronize us in a good way.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.